I spent 2 weeks sailing from San Diego to Cabo while running my whole ad agency offshore. And in this video, we're gonna break down exactly how I did it and what the sailing event was and really why I did it in the first place. So if you know me at all, I love adventure. I absolutely am obsessed with adventure. I love sailing, fishing, diving, anything offshore and ocean related. I had the opportunity to, for the second time ever, participate in this event called the Baja Ha-Ha. The Baja Ha-Ha is essentially a 2-week cruising rally from San Diego to Cabo San Lucas. And it takes approximately about 11-12 days is the whole event, plus a couple days before and after with a couple of fun events going on. But in a nutshell, I'm gonna break down the whole trip and show you exactly how I was able to run my business during the busiest time of the year, which is Q4 for me on the ad agency side with all of our ecom brand clients. So I'm gonna start off with what is the Baja Ha-Ha, and essentially Baja Ha-Ha is a cruising rally started by the Grand Pumbaa, who's also, his real name's called Richard Spinder. And Richard is the founder of Latitude 38, which is a boutique sailing magazine based out of San Francisco, but it's pretty much like a West Coast sailing magazine. The event's been going on for about 30 years now, and it brings cruisers from all up and down the coast of the whole West Coast of the United States, from San Diego all the way up to Alaska. Really, cruisers participate in this event each year because it gives them the opportunity to have a fun way to get their boat down to Mexico and potentially stay in the Sea of Cortez, go over to Puerto Vallarta, or even further down to Central America, or hop over the puddle jump to the South Pacific. And the reason this event actually starts in the beginning of November every year is because all the insurance companies that insure these cruising boats won't let the cruisers go into Mexico until the end of hurricane season. And that end of hurricane season is usually sometime between like the 28th of September to like the 3rd to the 4th of November. So really right when that date gets announced, based on the year and the conditions and what the insurance companies say, that gives the Baja Ha-Ha event the opportunity to go down to Mexico and participate. And people start planning for this event months in advance. It's technically a rally, which means that you are technically racing. Like we're keeping track of time, you're keeping track of when you have to motor, but at the same time, the whole goal of this event is to have fun. It's to get to each destination and really give everyone the opportunity to really let loose and have fun and have a safe environment to get down to Cabo in. This year, it started on November 4th. And that race started in San Diego. We had 2 stops. So we stop in Turtle Bay, which is the only real town off the coast of Baja, and then in another little fishing village cove called Bahia Santa Maria, and then we finish in Cabo. So this year I had the opportunity to actually go on a 43-foot Perry cruising catamaran. Absolutely beautiful boat owned by my godparents, Dan and Marie. And there was 4 of us this year. So it was Dan, Marie, me, and my god brother, Tony. We've been sailing together for years. Dan and Marie were actually partners with me on my sailboat, and then they actually gave their equity interest to Tony, and Tony's been a partner on my boat with my best friend Doug and I for quite a few years now. And so we've all been sailing together for years, and this was the opportunity for Dan and Marie to get their boat down to Mexico. They're actually keeping it down in Mexico for the rest of the season, so we're hoping to make our way back down there. This is a really, really cool event. It's actually my second time participating in this event. The first time was in 2017. I went with my buddy Andrew and some friends when Andrew took off to sail around the world. So getting back to what I'm going to talk about here is I'm going to break down like exactly what this rally looked like. And I'm also going to tell you what are some key things that I really took away from like a wild event like this and an adventure that was not easy by any means. But I'm also going to get into how I was able to continue to run my business the whole way throughout this trip. it was insane how I was able to work offshore for 2 weeks at a time, taking client calls, taking daily stand-ups, working on contracts. Like, my whole goal wasn't to just work the whole trip. It was to still participate and get some stuff done, but really to enjoy it and to try to unwind as much as possible. In today's age, like me being able to take off 2 weeks and completely unwind, I would absolutely love that, but it's just not feasible at this point in my life. Years in the future, when I'm not as involved in my business, I'm sure I'll have the opportunity, but right now it's either I'm gonna be able to get work done or I'm not, especially because, all of our clients were starting their BFCM campaigns pretty much during this time. Getting back to it, we started the cruising rally. The first event was technically on Sunday, November 3rd, and it started off with a welcome event in San Diego. So every year the event starts off with this welcome event at the West Marine in Shelter Island in San Diego, just outside of Point Loma. All the cruisers get together, they got food, drinks, a band, and it's obviously right after Halloween. So they had a Halloween contest, everyone gets kind of dressed up, and it's a lot of older folks that participate in this. Obviously a lot of retired people that have finished work, they're off cruising and living their sailing dreams, which is really fun to see. Our boat that we were on ended up leaving San Pedro a couple days before, which is in LA. They had to get the boat down to San Diego. So I left on that Sunday because I had to get some work done on Friday and Saturday to just prep for the trip. I left and just took an Uber straight from San Diego down to Shelter Island. After the event, hopped on. At the same time, my buddy Shanzi, one of my good friends, Sean, who is the owner of RigWorks, which is like the top rigging service on the West Coast. Sean was grateful enough to come to the event with us, and then he came out to the boat, which we had on anchor, took the dinghy out there, and Sean was able to do a full rigging inspection. Thank you, Sean and RigWorks, for helping us out with that and making sure we're safe. Your rig is like the top priority when you're doing an event like this. If something's wrong and your rigging isn't tucked in, you can take the whole boat down, and we don't want that to happen. At the same time, we had a couple winches that we wanted to get serviced up, and Sean did an awesome job just going through everything, going through those winches, making sure they were dialed in for us. We finished off with a really killer meal, and then Sean was out and we went to bed early, woke up the next day, got our fuel tanks filled up, and we're off to the start of the race. It was a beautiful day in San Diego, and we had the kickoff with some decent wind to start things off. We were cruising down, passing through Ensenada within the first few hours, which is about 40-50 miles south, and we had some decent wind. Not gonna lie though, that evening, I ended up getting pretty sick. There was some swell in the water, and I don't care how many times you've been in the water, every sailor, every waterman will get sick in some type of condition. It just depends on what and how you feel in certain days. And for me, and specifically Marie too, on the trip, that first night and second day were pretty rough. We got a little sick, but like I said, that was the first leg. Really from Monday through Thursday, we were sailing offshore down to Turtle Bay, which was a lot of fun. Like I said, it was pretty rough in times. The weather was still really good, and you start to feel things really cool down as you go south. And we were nonstop sailing. We took different night shifts. Essentially, us three guys split up the night shifts 3 hours each. Dan did the 9 to 12. Tony did the 12 to 3. And I did the 3 to 6. The great thing about the 3 to 6 was I could finish my shift in the morning. I'm up early having some coffee, breakfast, and I could take my morning call at 6:30 with my whole team. So we did that first leg down. We caught some fish on that trip, caught a couple bonita and some skipjack, threw most of them back because we were more or less waiting for the yellowfin and the yellowtail and the wahoo. Had a good sail, made it down. Thursday morning, we made it to Turtle Bay. Turtle Bay is the first stop. It's a small little fishing village on the coast of Baja. And once we were in Turtle Bay, we were able to really relax a little, came into the harbor, had a nice little great sail into Turtle Bay in the morning with a killer sunrise. Winds kicked up to like 20, 25 knots. We had to throw a couple reefs in, get into Turtle Bay, and set anchor, put everything away, went to shore, ended up stopping at my favorite place there, which is called Maria's, which Maria is this incredible woman who runs this little restaurant and on shore there. We stopped there, and I was actually a little bummed because last time I did this trip, we wrote our name on the wall. They used to have cruisers just writing their name on the wall and leaving $1. And they actually renovated the place, so that wasn't there anymore. It's kind of a bummer. We had some great fish tacos and lobster tacos, and then I went over to a first real event when we're in Turtle Bay, which was a softball tournament that the whole organization puts on with the local kids there. So even though it's a small village, they still have a pretty active softball and baseball community. So we get out there and we bring a bunch of donations for the kids, have some cold beers, enjoyed the time. I got some work done in the morning before we went to shore. Surprisingly, last time I went on this trip, we had really poor internet, and the only way I was able to work was being in Turtle Bay and like tethering off my phone and going to an internet cafe. Surprisingly, this trip, I had such great internet because we had Starlink the whole time with the offshore package that I was able to get everything I needed to get done and enjoy those little events on shore. Plus, even though we were getting cellular connection with anytime I travel internationally, I just buy the $10 a day AT&T day pass. So I have AT&T, and it's really easy to get connected, and it's totally worth it to me to have Wi-Fi and cellular. But that internet and cellular reception was so bad I could barely even send a text message, yet alone use my phone. Having Starlink was the game changer, and the only way I was able to do this trip, and will ever be able to potentially do it again in the future. We're in Turtle Bay. We had some really killer tacos. We had the little sporting event, which is us just having some fun with the local kids and being able to give back to the community there. Made it back to shore, had an early night with a little dinner, and woke up the next day and repositioned the boat a little further down the way in Turtle Bay. And there was the big event of the day is a beach party that gets put on where all the locals are selling tacos and drinks on shore. We woke up, got a little work done, made some calls, had my team call in the morning, had some coffee, and then we ended up getting the wing foil out. If you don't know what a wing foil is, essentially it's a surfboard with a foil on it, and you hold this wing kite in your hands, and it's like you're sailing and surfing at the same time. A lot of fun. My first time ever doing it, so we were rolling around. I was figuring it out a little with Dan and Tony. We had a lot of fun. After we were done with that, we went to shore and enjoyed the party. Had some drinks, had a good time with the other people. There was 130 boats and I want to say it was around 500 people participating total, 400 or 500 people total in the whole event, which was really, really cool. Lots of people, lots of good times. We're in this remote beach in the middle of Baja, Mexico, looking off at the sunset, getting the wing foil, getting to, enjoy a couple drinks and just having the time of our lives. It's really when you have those moments like that, when you're sitting on the back of the boat, where you're just like, I'm so grateful for what I have and what I've been able to do. So Saturday was the next start of leg 2 of the journey. And from here on this rally, we were going from Turtle Bay down to Bahia Santa Maria. We had an early start. There was a little bit of thick fog out, but we were able to make our way out. There wasn't much wind, so we were motoring for the most part. This day had to be the most fun I had the whole trip. Around 11:30, 12 noon that day, we ended up getting hooked up in this massive school of nice grade yellowfin tuna. And I was able to bring in my biggest yellowfin to date on the back of the boat. It was about 70, 75 pounds. It was incredible. And right when we got that fish into the boat, oh my God, I was screaming like crazy. I had so much fun. It was incredible. Having that type of fish, being in the middle of nowhere, being able to bring it in the boat, knowing that we're gonna have so much fun eating this great fish, this is what we were looking for. And this was just us trolling behind the boat. We're on a freaking sailboat, right? Catching 70+ pound yellowfin tuna in the middle of the ocean off the coast of Mexico. We don't have any fishing equipment. We're not on a sport fishing boat. We don't have a guide. We're doing this all on our own, which makes it really, really fun. You know, anyone can go out and hire a guide to help them catch fish, but not everyone can do what we did, and catching these fish on your own just makes it so much more fun. We caught that fish, literally 5 minutes later, zip, 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 line was out again, and we brought in another. This time Tony brought that one in. After we caught those 2 fish, we then spent the next hour and a half to 2-3 hours processing the fish, getting them nice and cold. And these fish, you know, you really want to put them on ice as fast as you can. But we, you know, usually when we're on a sport boat or if we're on our fishing boat, we have big kill bags and they're filled with ice and we can get the temp down. So what we did is we bled the fish as fast as we can. You want to respect this fish. You want to process the fish as fast as you can. So we bled them out. After we bled them, we actually dragged them in the water to just get their temp down a little, right? You want to cool these fish down. If you don't cool them off, you will actually burn the meat. These fish are operating at such a high frequency that they will start to burn from the inside, and you got to process the meat right. So we put the fish back in the water, put a rope on its tail, dragged them a little, let them cool off a little. Then after that, started filleting them up, cut up all the fish off those 2. We had so much, we were practically filled on the freezers. And from there, you know, started cleaning the boat, getting things ready. Caught a couple more skipjack that day, just catch and release. At this point, we're not going to keep skipjack when we can barely keep all this yellowfin tuna on the boat. Incredible day of fishing, just the time of our lives. And that night we cooked an incredible just feast of seared yellowfin tuna with seaweed salad that we had brought and some coconut rice. And that was Saturday. Finishing it up, did our shifts that night. And I woke up that morning pretty early on Sunday, and obviously it's the weekend, so I didn't have to work. I threw a couple lines in the water and we caught 3 more little baseball, 20, 25 pound yellowfin. You know, at that point, we just couldn't keep any more fish. So those are the fish we kept, and we just started catch and releasing fish at that point. At that point, we probably catched and released around 40 yellowfin, skipjack, and bonita total. I mean, we were just hooking them nonstop within this 48-hour period and having the time of our lives. And, you know, on that Sunday, after we caught those fish, we actually lost one of our motors. We lost our portside motor, and, you know, luckily we're on a cruising catamaran, so we have 2 motors, and we're able to still move. But if we didn't have a motor, it would have been really challenging to just get all the way down. We would have eventually gotten down to Cabo, but we wouldn't have done it in the timely manner that we were looking to. Even with 1 motor, we're still monitoring everything, keeping things in check, you know, working the sails, having a good time. And then on Monday morning, we ended up in Bahia Santa Maria, which is the second stop of the trip. And right when we got in, oh my God, there's this incredible point break right off of Bahia Santa Maria. And there was a couple guys already out surfing, part of the crew. And, you know, for me, it was either bring spear guns on this trip or bring surfboards. We picked spear guns. The surf was amazing, and it was rolling in. We got some really great pics of some guys out there. Santa Maria is a really cool protected bay. Bahia de Santa Maria, really cool protected bay just on the north side, just north of Magdalena Bay, which is like literally the Jurassic Park of fishing. It's the sport fishing capital of the world. Some of the best fishing in the world is in Mag Bay. So we were in the right zone, and we spent the afternoon there doing some more wing foiling, and unfortunately I busted my right knee so hard. I was learning how to wing foil on this trip, busted my knee, and it was really rough. I didn't know how I was gonna walk. It was getting worse, but I was hanging in there. And that was the night. Got some sleep that night. I was in a lot of pain, but luckily we had a little bit of Advil on the boat, and that helped take the edge off of the knee. But it was sore for the rest of the week, and I could barely walk the next day. But luckily, I didn't tear anything, and it was all good, and I learned my lesson with wing foiling. Tuesday was another big day. It was our first full day in Bahia Santa Maria, and they had another beach party, similar to the beach party in Turtle Bay. Bahia Santa Maria is not even a town. It's a little fishing stop. It's a little spot for commercial fishermen that have shacks on the beach to bring their pongas up, and that's about it. So they actually bring in a band from La Paz that plays for tips, and then the locals get together and they do like a big fish fry with fish tacos and having drinks. And this is an opportunity for the locals to earn a couple bucks and enjoy themselves and, make some money. These people don't have that many opportunities to make money. And, a lot of what we want to do is cruisers on a trip like this is be able to support the locals throughout the trip. And it feels really good to, they're putting together these nice little meals for us, serving them drinks and to support them, which was a lot of fun. And then we finished it up. The sunsets that night in Bahia Santa Maria were absolutely incredible. The sun just coming down over the mountain range right on the coast was amazing. It's such an interesting environment where you feel like you're in the desert when you're on shore, but you're on the coast and you have these mountains right up from you. So really, really fun. And at that point, we're almost hitting the tropic line. So it's starting to get a lot warmer. And then the next morning, after that fun beach party we had, we packed up the boat early and we had an early start down to our last leg to Cabo. And this was gonna be a quick overnight sail. So a little over, I would say it was gonna take us about 36 hours, maybe 40 hours total. We left really early in the morning, and same thing, not that great of wind to start, but we had some epic fishing that day. Later in that day, we actually caught a striper marlin on the hand line, which the hand line it's literally a line. It doesn't even have a rod attached to it. It's got a little bungee on it, and we brought in that marlin on a hand line, which was really cool. It was about 65, 70 pound striper marlin. And then we caught a little mako shark about this big and, had that on one of our jigs. So catch and release both of those, caught another 20, 30 tuna skipjack mix that we just catched and released and threw back. Had an awesome time, unbelievable fishing on that day. We had so much fun. Had our last night shift rolling through at our different times, took morning calls on Thursday morning, and at this point we entered into the tropics and we had our last nice little sail down to Cabo. Great weather the whole way, fish the whole way down. Nothing's better than seeing those arches off of the beaches in Cabo. Rolled into the early evening, anchored the boat up, put everything away, and then headed into town on the dinghy, tied up to the local dinghy dock with all the cruisers in the marina, and went to one of my favorite restaurants in Cabo. And I love this place because it's just nostalgic. It's called The Office, and The Office is right on the beach in the main strip of Cabo. This is where all the local fishermen used to meet up in the morning, hence the name The Office. After that, we went over to the Squid Row, which is one of the bars in the Cabo Marina area. This is when the big party happened. Every year they have this party called the I Can't Believe We Escaped Death Party. And essentially it's just a celebration to get the cruisers together and to throw a couple of drinks back, everyone to dance a little, have a good time. And it's really unfortunate because, after this ended up being the last event of the Baja Ha-Ha this year. Usually they have another day on Saturday or another day on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And this year the weather was looking pretty bad starting on Sunday. And so they wanted everyone to really be able to get out of Cabo because there wasn't that many slips available, and everyone's on the anchor. And if you get stuck on the anchorage out there when the harbor master closes the harbor, it is very dangerous. The management and the administration that puts on the event essentially said, guys, we're gonna cancel these events. It's better that these boats get out of here sooner than later, and then people could head over to La Paz or to Mazatlan or Puerto Vallarta to make the jumps there before the weather got really bad and they're stuck out. So anyways, for us, we still enjoyed the rest of the time. Friday morning, woke up to this amazing view on the water. We're just anchored right off the main beach in Cabo. Just beautiful weather. Got a little work done, had some coffee. And then for this last night, I'm leaving the next day. I was planning to just get a hotel room. So my buddy Tony and I, you know, with his parents taking off, one of their friends came into town on Friday, and the three of them were gonna head up on the rest of the trip up to Loreto. Tony and I ended up getting a hotel room in the Cabo Marina, got checked into that hotel room, and then all of us together went out to an epic dinner at Edith's in Cabo, which is another unbelievable restaurant in the Cabo Marina beach area that I highly recommend. And then really Saturday, woke up, had a nice breakfast, got a little work done, packed our bags, and headed to the airport. Now let's get into how I was able to work on this trip. We had Starlink, and it was an absolute game changer. If you're not familiar with Starlink, Starlink is one of Elon Musk's greatest inventions. Through the invention of Starlink, it's essentially having the best internet you can have anywhere in the world through satellites. And I cannot tell you, if I didn't have Starlink on this trip, I wouldn't have been able to actually do it. When I did this trip in 2017, we had Iridium Go internet, which is like a specialty internet that connects to a sat phone. And we could only send like a basic text-based email or a simple text message that pretty much says we're safe and we're okay. This was amazing, where I could be downloading, doing anything I needed to do. If I didn't have this, I wouldn't have been able to do this trip. So even though, like I said, I would love to just disconnect for 2 weeks on end, I'm not at a point in my career where I can do that, nor do I want to, because I'm gonna be slowing my business down. I'm not gonna be there for my team, not gonna be there for my clients. And especially like this event happens in November, and November just happens to be my busy season with BFCM in Q4. I was able to take calls every morning with my clients. I think 1 or 2 mornings I missed because it was just really rough sailing or I was really sick, but I was on 80% of all of our calls that week. And with BFCM just starting, it was our busiest time of year, and I had to be in full communication. Like I said, I could not take off. But overall, I was able to run payroll 70 miles off the coast of Baja. Starlink was incredible. It had no issues on this trip. And even before we left, I told my team, listen, I don't know how good Starlink's gonna be, so you might not hear from me for a couple days on end. But the whole time, no disruptions with Starlink. It worked the whole time. And I was able to get all the work done I needed and be there for my team, taking phone calls with them, through, the great thing about, an iPhone is, you can just call through the internet. So even though I just had internet, I was just making calls online through my cell phone. I was taking new client calls. I was negotiating contracts, and we even closed a new client. I closed a new client when I was offshore. It's like, how cool is that? Here are a couple of my key takeaways from this trip. Don't make excuses for why you can't do things. I did this trip back in 2017, and I have made an excuse for why I haven't been able to do a big adventure like this in quite a few years now. And I realized that I make excuses for why I can't do things, and I need to stop that. That's something that I'm putting on my list for 2025. I need adventure like this in my life. It is so important to me that I have this, and no excuses moving forward for why I can't participate in something, even if it sounds a little crazy. Next takeaway, technology will let us work anywhere in the world. Like I said, I had Starlink, I had my cell phone, and I had my computer and power, and I was able to work this whole trip. It was insane, and I cannot believe the type of advancements we've had over the last few years. Like I said, 2017, I could barely get any work done at an internet cafe in Turtle Bay, and now I'm here having access to internet the whole trip nonstop, which was incredible. Next, do things that make you happy. This trip was just eye-opening to make me realize I have to continue to do things that make me happy. I have to continue to getting that itch to get more adventure in my life, because that's something that I value a lot. Put things in your calendar in advance. As I get older, I've realized that I have to put things in the calendar or it won't happen, period. Die with memories and experiences. Take advantage of the time you have while you're young and healthy. My wife and I are gonna be having kids in the next few years, and I've realized that these opportunities for me to do trips like this are not gonna come all the time, right? And I was making excuses for myself before this trip why I don't know if I should be able to do it. What if my clients aren't happy? What if my team feels like I'm not taken care of? Like, I'm making every excuse in my head, and then I realized I'm able to do these trips because I started my business almost 9 years ago because I wanted to be able to do trips like that. Like this. This is what's important to me, and this is what I need, and this is the reason I've set up my life this way. Next, which probably is the most important takeaway, is do hard things. I was listening to a podcast a few months ago. It was actually the My First Million podcast with Jesse Itzler. If you're not familiar with Jesse Itzler, he's really incredible entrepreneur. He founded a luxury jet company and actually sold it to Berkshire Hathaway. He brought up something in this podcast that said, you know, every year you should be doing something called a misogi. And a misogi is essentially an experience that you do by taking a hard thing, right? Taking something that's gonna be challenging to do, whether it's a marathon or a 2-week adventure like this, like something that's gonna be challenging, putting it on the calendar and accomplishing it. And this year, my misogi was this sailing adventure. It wasn't an easy trip. You know, it was challenging. We were sleep deprived. I got seasick. I was stressed out. We were working hard sailing. Like, it was not easy. We cooking all of our own meals, cleaning, making sure the boat's safe, making sure we're safe, making sure nothing happens to anyone. It's not easy, but it was so rewarding. And extraordinary things are never gonna be easy, but they're gonna be very, very, very rewarding. Next, and I know I've said this, but I love adventure and I need it more in my life. Adventure isn't easy. It can be dangerous, stressful, and hard, but it is so rewarding, and I will take these memories down to my grave. Like I said, this trip was not an easy trip, but I can't believe how well it was executed, from all the planning that we did, getting this boat ready, getting the crew ready, doing some test sails beforehand, making sure we have the right sail quivers, having all the food, having the resources, and then being able to actually get work done and stay connected with our families and our teams while we were gone was absolutely incredible. Thanks everyone for watching this video. I know this is a little different from what we currently do, but I wanted to share this because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm sure most of you listen here are either wanting to start a business or are, you know, you're either running a business and you're looking to grow it. I think it's important where everyone talks about the grind, this and that, and like put your head down and just don't put it up and don't take any trips. But I gotta tell you that doing trips like this, it makes you think differently. Like, just going through and stepping out of your current environment into another environment, I can't tell you how many like key aha moments and takeaways I had for my business and just thinking about things different. And then also just letting my team run and do things without me. Like, there's a lot of tasks that I'm doing daily that I realize I don't have to be there for because my team's taking care of it. It was an incredible trip. I'm happy I could share this with you. And in the future, if you're ever looking to participate in an event like this, there's always boats looking for crew. So you can get onto the crew list with Baja Ha-Ha. I'll leave the link in the show notes, and hopefully they'll continue to do this event in the future. And you know, if it's something that you're interested in, you can participate in it. And if you're looking to do an adventure or something like this, just remember, get Starlink and you can work anywhere in the world. And with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Peace.